What's up, YouTube? Welcome back, JDS Outdoors. Now we have something that resembles a boat trailer again. Let's turn around and take a quick look at it. So we got the front all painted up, cleaned up. You can barely even tell that that part was added. I may have to do a little adjusting once I finally put the boat on the trailer, but I'm guessing that's going to be pretty close. So it looks kind of long in the garage here, but once I put a boat on it, it'll make a little bit more sense. But in this episode, we are going to work on the wiring on this trailer. Replace all of it and install new tail lights. So first thing you want to do is go ahead and get yourself some new lights and a wire kit. They also sell this all in one piece at like Tractor Supply, one kit all together. Ideally, you want to get lights that say submersible on them. These ones do not, so they're not going to last very long. But they were free with the trailer, so I'm going to use them for the time being until I get my lazy butt over and buy a set of submersible ones. Also, your wires. Buy one that has the plug on it. It makes your life a little bit easier. You got a little bit less splicing to do. Most of them come like that. But the first thing to installing this is to get all the old wires out. Now you don't want to just sit and yank all the wires out, because you're going to need those to help feed the new wires through. And the way we're going to do that is starting from the back of the trailer. On this particular trailer, it had a rubber grommet right there, and for some reason had all this extra wire. You want to pull that rubber grommet out and get a little bit of wire to work with. Now, how these 4 flat trailer wire harnesses work is your brown wire is your tail lights / your running lights. So as soon as you turn your lights on, that turns on the light bulb. Your yellow wire is your left turn signal and left brake. And then just the opposite on the other side. Your brown is your running lights. And then your green is your right turn signal and brake light. So we're going to work our way from the back of the trailer. First thing we want to do after this step is we're going to cut the wire and attach like a string or some sort of long, easy to hold on to and sturdy item to feed through, working our way from the back to the front. And it'll look something like this. Now I like to use, this is underground fence wire for your dog. It's a 20 gauge, real light gauge wire, but it's sturdy. So if you get caught up on something, you can still give it a little bit of a tug and it's not going to break. But fishing line, heavy braid fishing line, or heavy mono, whatever you want to use, rope, string. This is just what I use because it was left behind by the previous owners of this house, and I don't have a use for it other than this, and it works great. So after you get to this point, we're going to go to the middle of the trailer, and you can see where the tongue connects to the trailer. Underneath the middle is another rubber grommet where the wires come out. So we want to feed, in my case, that green wire to this point, and we're going to do that on both sides. But this is still snug in here because it's connected to this little running light. We're going to pop that off and pull the wire through until it looks something like this. And you just keep pulling until you get your string of choice to come out. Then you cut it and let it just dangle there until you get the other side done. Once you have both sides with your string of choice coming through the frame of the trailer, you go ahead and cut off all the excess because you don't need to pull all that through as well. And you repeat the same step, tying your string of choice to these wires that come out the tongue through that rubber grommet. Repeat that step, pull it all the way through the tongue out to the front until it looks like this. Now we have all the old wires removed and our string of choice coming out the front. We're going to cut this off and get the new wires attached to this, but it's got to go through this hole on the top of the tongue here. So we're going to do pretty much what we just did in the exact opposite form, working from the front of the trailer to the back. Now once you get it set up like this with your wire coming through that hole, you're good to go ahead and attach your new wires to your string of choice. And then it'll look something like this. Now this part's a good idea to have a friend help you if you have that available, to help feed this wire through the hole, because as you're pulling on the other side in the middle of the trailer, you want this to go through nice and smooth and make sure you don't hit any sharp edges. Also, if you feel any resistance, don't just keep yanking. Come over to this end and help feed some through if you're doing this by yourself. If you pull too hard, you're going to pull this right off the end, and then you got to feed a stiffer wire all the way through and kind of start over. So we're going to go over to the and pull the wire. There's some resistance there. I'm going to pull this wire through until it looks like this. Now you want to pull all of your slack wire to this point, because you can trim whatever's extra off of this end. You can't trim it off of this end. So you pull it until your plug wire is just long enough to reach the plug-in on your vehicle. And it'll look something like this. Now this white wire on the front by your plug is your ground. I will explain what to do with that once we get to that point. But I like to leave this a pretty good distance away, because for some reason Ford thought it was a good idea on the Super Duties to put the plug out in no man's land, and most of these trailers are too short. So it's better to have a little extra than not enough. So now that we got all the wire pulled through the tongue here, coming out the rubber grommet, we're going to go ahead and start feeding it through the frame, connecting it to our string of choice, a little bit of electrical tape, and pull it through the frame all the way to the back until it looks like this on both sides. The wires coming out the grommet hole. Also, another little tip. In the middle here, if you have these running lights on the side, keep a little bit of a loop down here to give yourself some wire to work with, so when you hook up your side marker lights, it's easier to hook them up, and then you just feed the excess back in the tube. Makes it real easy. Next step is to make these rear lights that are all busted up disappear. Just like that, they're gone. Both sides. So let's get the new ones opened up and take a look at those. So we have the left side and the right side light here. And as you notice, you got two wires coming out the back. You got your running light and you got your turn signal / brake light. What you don't see is a ground wire. The reason for that is these posts are your ground wire, essentially. Some lights have one post, a ground wire, and the other post doesn't do anything. And it varies on which one it is. So a way to verify which one it is to take the cover off and look down inside. You see this tab here is the grounding tab, and if you notice, both bolts touch that grounding tab. So that means that both posts are your grounds. Why is this important? Because if you don't have your holes clean to where your posts make good contact, or the back of the holes cleaned off, you won't make good ground and your lights will not work. So you take some sandpaper and a file, clean it up when it looks like this, and you get the metal cleaned up and the rust and the paint removed, and you're confident that you're going to have a good ground, then you're good to go ahead and install your lights. Once you get the new lights bolted on, then you're good to go ahead and hook up the lights using whichever method you prefer. Personally, I like to solder and heat shrink them. It leaves a smaller profile, it's easier to fit through the hole, and it's watertight and works great. Before you hook these wires together though, it is important to remember to fish your rubber grommet back over the wires so you can shove that back in the hole to protect the edge of the wires from getting cut. So go ahead and get those hooked up, and once you're done, it should look something similar to this. Now don't be afraid to have a little bit of extra wire, that's okay. You just fish it through the grommet and it'll rest in the frame. It's not a bad idea to have a little bit of extra. That way, if you ever do need to replace the lights and you cut the ends off, you got a little bit of wire to work with. So go ahead, fish it through. Now that light is wired up and ready to go. Repeat the process on the right side. So once the rear of the trailer is finished being wired, we're going to focus our attention back to the middle of the trailer. Now remember, on the rear lights how I said it's important to check and see which bolt is the negative. This is a good example of why. As you can see, this left side here is the negative, or your ground. So it's really important to make sure that that bolt makes really good clean contact with the frame. So in order to hook this up, we're going to feed this wire through to the other side, or just right in here. I'm going to have to do this with two hands, so I won't be able to show it. Very, very carefully put a split in the wire, and you're going to want to hook it up to your running lights, or your always on tail lights, which is your brown wire. I like to use these inline splices. I'm not 100% certain on the exact correct terminology. That's just what I call them. We're going to go ahead and install that now. After that's installed, we can go ahead and feed the excess wire back into the frame, install our light and cover, and repeat the process on the other side. After you get your midsection running lights hooked back up, if your trailer is equipped, then we're going to move forward to the front of the trailer. The last two steps are: one, hook up your ground wire to your trailer frame, somewhere in this area. You're going to want to remove any excess paint and get a nice clean piece of metal that looks like this. Install a ring terminal to the end of your wire, and then go ahead and use a self-tapping screw and attach it to the frame in that clean metal spot. Now the last step is to get some wire loom and wire loom this pigtail together. Keep the wires nice and neat, also protect them from rubbing. I currently don't have any wire loom. I'll have to go pick that up. I will show that in the next episode. Now, let's go hook this up to the truck and see if all of our work actually worked. Here we have the lights hooked up to the truck. Running lights work good, and even our little amber lights are on. So we hooked that up correctly. Let's go ahead and check the left blinker. Left blinker is working. Let's check the right blinker. Right blinker is working. So usually that means if your blinkers are working, your brakes are working also. I can't film and hit the brakes at the same time. You just have to take my word for it. Anyways, so far this weekend, we've successfully extended the tongue of the trailer, rewired it using the old wires to help pull the new wires through, and installed new lights. Tested, shown, it all works. Anyways, if you want to see how to do bearings and all that fun stuff, that's the next episode. Also, check in to see how the wire loom looks like. Or if you don't know what wire loom is, check back and see what it is. And also, we're going to go ahead and throw the boat on the trailer and see how much better it fits. So, if you like this video, thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching JDS Outdoors. Alright, you caught me on a good day. Here's the finished wiring. Ran through the wire loom, goes through the grommet. As you can see, it does not pull on the ground wire, because repeated pulling and bending on that ground wire, you'll snap it off. Goes through the grommet, inside, and is up in this clip. Tough to see right there. But that way, the wires have no chance of getting pinched in between the swing away on this trailer. So, little bonus clip for you.